What if I told you that the secret to getting what you want in life and having more control overall comes from learning to let go? It might sound crazy, but it's true. The tighter we grip and hold on to things, the more easily they fall through our fingers. But when we learn to let go, everything can change. Hey guys, my name is Andre, and I've spent the past many years mastering this skill of letting go. And although I think it can be one of the hardest things for people to do, it becomes one of the most powerful tools in your toolbox once you learn it. In this video, you're going to discover why letting go is so powerful and how it becomes a superpower in building the life you actually want to live. Drop a comment below if there's something you've been trying to let go of, but find it challenging to do. So why is letting go so hard? And real quick, I just want to make this note. It's not hard, guys. A table is hard. A desk is hard. A wall is hard. Letting go is uncomfortable. And this is the biggest distinction that I think is important to realize, because if we've all heard you have to go through the fire to get what you want, get on the other side of your comfort zone, right? This is why letting go is so hard. Because we say it's hard, right? It just flows out of our tongue using that language. It's not hard, guys. It's uncomfortable to let go. And if you can embrace discomfort, you are miles ahead of everyone else. And I mean that. The MindWorks program that I teach my clients, we lean into discomfort very intentionally because that is the key. Imagine a movie scene or a cartoon, right? Where the main character is holding on for dear life to some ledge or some pole, right? And if they drop it, they think they're gonna die. They dramatically try to hold on, but something causes them to let go. Maybe the enemy stomps on their hands or their fingers, right? Or maybe they just can't hold on any longer. It sounds super painful and uncomfortable because they think everything is gonna crash and burn or that they're gonna die. A lot of times, most of the time, they don't die, right? They're going to be fine. Something's gonna catch them. But I just think of that analogy when I'm thinking of what it feels like to let go. We're holding on so tightly for dear life. And actually, if we learn to loosen our grip and start to let go of things, it can really change so many things. So I think letting go is one of the most challenging things that a human can learn how to do for a couple of reasons. One, because it is so, and it can be so uncomfortable, but also, and that it's uncomfortable because of what's required to change, but also because of how ingrained we are in the life, and we don't realize how much of a shift actually needs to happen, a lot of times internally, in order to let go. I want to share with you guys a few things that were a struggle for me to let go of. The first one was when I decided to leave California and Silicon Valley for a life of being a digital nomad. So I was out of UC Berkeley, just graduated, 3 years into working for a company in Silicon Valley. I was making six figures right out of college. And I knew this wasn't the life I wanted to live. So I started hearing about the digital nomad lifestyle, right? Traveling the world, keeping your job, but working remotely, and being able to spend your days where you wanted with other people who were also living the same way. I thought that life was fascinating. And to be honest, it took me months of writing pros and cons lists. And I was doing research, of course, but for me to get over the mental inner hump and the decision that I'm going to do this, whatever it takes, and let go of the stability of being a software developer in Silicon Valley, that was an uncomfortable thing to let go of. And it took me time to finally make that shift. Before that and during that and even after that, one of the hardest things, and again, I'm using the word hard, right? It just comes out. One of the most challenging and most uncomfortable things that I had to learn to let go of was a very strong romantic attachment that I had to this girl that I met in college. And it honestly took me years to do because my mind was so automatic and it was so attached. I was basically addicted, is the way I kind of came to realize. My mind was addicted to thinking of life with that person and everything. So I told myself back then, I'm going to have to become a different person. For me to get over this girl, I have to become a different person. I have to let go of who I've been, because whoever it was that I was, got into that state where I was addicted and so attached to this one person. And I had to change. That was a hard thing to let go of. So that mental pattern was one that took me a long time to break free of. The third thing for me that was really tricky to let go of was a lot of mental patterns that I had. I had crippling self-doubt, very low self-esteem, and not a very good self-image. And a lot of that came from the environment that I grew up in, right? And we all come out of the womb differently, right? I entered the world as a bit of a softer male, let's say. And the other people in my family, especially the women in my family, my older sisters, my mom, are very strong-minded. So that sculpted me mentally to be more on the weaker side. And so I had low self-esteem because of that. I had a lot of self-doubt because of that. In my family, with my siblings growing up, we would poke fun at each other and call each other names and put each other down. And looking back, sure, it was all in jest. It was all, making fun. But when you're a kid, you absorb that. You don't know necessarily, your brain, your subconscious doesn't know, and it's subconsciously absorbing that information and that language and those beliefs. And then you get enmeshed with your family. If you haven't looked up family enmeshment, I think it's pretty fascinating. You get enmeshed in that entire family dynamic. And now you are a puzzle piece in that whole puzzle that fits just perfectly into the whole dynamic. And so it can be hard for you to break out of that because there are a lot of other pieces of the puzzle that are going to keep you in your place if you try to step out of it. And many of us spend, 2 decades of our lives with our family. And so it can be a very strong conditioning and programming that happens that keeps us mentally weak or small. And with that can come a lot of core beliefs and other things that I'll get into in a moment. So what does it mean to let go of something? First of all, guys, it's not giving up and it's not losing control. Letting go is actually the opposite of that. It's a very powerful thing that you can do to redirect the energy you were using on something that you were gripping to things that are more aligned with you and who you are and that are more valuable to you than the thing that you're holding on to. It's a redirection from who you were towards who you were meant to be and who you want to be. And one challenging thing here, guys, is that as kids, as children, we are told who to be and we are told how to be because we're growing up in our parents' house, right? And that gets ingrained in our psyches. And so we lose our muscle of deciding who we want to be. Or we will believe that we'll get punished or reprimanded for being someone that we want to be if it's not in line with our caretakers, because that's how they treated us. And so we think there might be specific consequences for actually doing something that we would rather do and be who we want to be. And a lot of times, those consequences simply don't exist anymore. So why is letting go a paradox? Why does trying to control everything actually make life more of a challenge for us? Often, the controlling that we're doing is actually coming from a place of inauthenticity. And so life is hard not because of how we are acting, but because of the arena that we are acting in. We get conditioned from the day we were born to play in someone else's arena. From playing with others in the sandbox as toddlers, to growing up in your parents' house, to being a student among your peers in schools for 12 or 16 or 20 or more years. And then from that to working for somebody else's company for the rest of your life. We are constantly being told who to be, what to do, and how to do it. And for some people, that's fine. Don't get me wrong. But for the entrepreneurs out there, for the ambitious high achievers, man, it can really piss us off. Why do you think that A students end up working for C students? There are plenty of millionaires and CEOs out there who dropped out of high school or college or just never went to college. They knew early on inside that they didn't want to live someone else's life. They didn't want to live the life somebody else told them to live. And man, I wish I had that clarity and that courage and the confidence to make a change when I was younger. Everything I just mentioned is at this like social and career level, right? The social, the external world side of things. In the relationship side of things, it's the same concept. We often don't get the love and attention that we wanted as kids. So we become conditioned to find and attach to any level of love and attention that we get from somebody who gives it to us, even if it's just a small piece. And especially if they trigger our attachment style. And there is a great book called Attached that talks about attachment styles. In that book, you learn how you have a certain way of operating in relationships. And if somebody has the exact other side of it, kind of like two magnets coming together, if someone has the exact other side of it, you can stay in that even though it's very unhealthy for you. So again, guys, for 18 years, we are conditioned by the environment that we grew up in. And it's going to dictate the way that we relate to other people in our adult life. So even though it might not be authentic for you, to stay in that relationship that you're in, you still don't let go because you were attached by the conditioning you've been experiencing your entire life. But you can let go, and you're going to be okay. You just need to uncondition your wiring that makes you believe otherwise. Real control looks like being who you really want to be, not living on autopilot, and being calm about it without any anxiety. And when you do that, things will just start to fall into place for you. Serendipity happens more often for you. Life doesn't happen to you anymore. It happens for you. And the root of all of this, guys, is often that we don't know who we are because for some reason we didn't discover our own truth. We feel so uncomfortable stepping away from the job, from the girlfriend, from the boyfriend, because we fear who we will be without them. As you learn who you are and you step into that more confidently, a lot of this is going to start to fall away. So let's talk about and define some of the things that we can let go of in life. And even though they might be uncomfortable or challenging to do so, these are some of the things that I find we hold on to that is going to shape us as we start to let go of them. And I'll give you a hint, guys. A lot of these are going to be internal things, not external things. The first one is stuff, physical stuff, materialistic stuff that we have in our lives. Why do you think the minimalists are so popular? There's a podcast, if you haven't heard of it, called The Minimalists. They have documentaries, they have books. They became very popular very quickly because of this mindset of starting to let go of the things in your life. There's also the declutter queen, Marie Kondo, who got popular because she helped people empty their closets and declutter their lives. Right? I think it's fascinating how there's a TV show about hoarders. People just hoard things. We just gather and accumulate more and more stuff, and we don't need it, guys. Maybe you know a neighbor who does this, or maybe somebody you know in your own family also. Maybe you do this. I realized that behavior in myself many years ago. I was just gathering things because I thought it was a cool little trinket, and I thought to myself, why am I keeping this? Like there was one time where my car got broken into and my laptop got stolen. I was in my first years of college. And I wanted to remember that so it wouldn't happen again. So I kept a piece of the glass of the window of my car that was broken. You know, it was a whole piece, maybe the size of an index card. And after a while, I thought, why am I keeping this? Why am I holding on to this? Like, yeah, maybe it's sentimental value. There's meaning behind it. But if you do that over the years of your life, things are just going to stack up and stack up. And you can always find a reason to keep something, but you don't need it. So the more we can let go of things, souvenirs, trinkets, anything that just builds up in the junk drawer, things that get left in boxes for years, or maybe you're saving for a rainy day, that is stuff we can let go of. The second thing that we can let go of that maybe isn't serving us is relationships and people in our lives. And relationships has both an internal and an external piece, because obviously the people are external, but the roles that we are supposed to play, the roles that we believe we are supposed to play, is more of an internal concept. Maybe you're in a romantic relationship and you know you're not happy in it. If you don't know who you are without that person, then there is going to be a tight attachment to that person. A lot of times, a lot of us people please also. And that is something that we can also learn to let go of in relationships. Feeling that we have to be this super nice guy, feeling that we have to say yes all the time, or believing that we have to play this certain role or that certain role in our family or to our parents or to our company. Those are all internal concepts that we can learn to let go of so that we can let go of anything that doesn't serve us or anyone who doesn't serve us in our lives so that we can live more authentically and more aligned with who we really are. That brings me to layer number 3, which is your job or your career. Again, a bit of an external and internal combo because there's a label of the role we think we're supposed to be. Ask yourself this question. Is your job a main part of your identity? If I asked you, who are you? And you couldn't say your occupation. I'm a software developer. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner, right? If I asked you who you are and you couldn't answer with that, what would you say? A lot of us don't know who we are in and of ourselves. And our occupation, our job is such a huge part of that. And if you have chosen a career that isn't actually aligned with you, or if you're working a job that you don't want, but you're staying in it anyway and not taking steps to get out of it, that's an uncomfortable thing to let go of. But people do it all the time. The fourth layer of things that we can let go of is behavioral patterns. This is an internal thing. We're getting into that internal state where it can be more challenging, more uncomfortable, and it takes more self-analysis to be able to recognize some of these things. But if you're living on autopilot, a lot of people are. We're more reactive rather than responding to things. If you're living on autopilot, then there are going to be some underlying behavioral patterns that are driving the show, which you might not be aware of. So ask yourself if you're living an authentic life, authentic to you, or one that somebody else wrote for you. And a lot of the decisions we make and the way we behave and react in society come from underlying patterns that, yes, you can also learn to let go of. Number 5 is thought patterns. Again, an internal thing and potentially more of a challenge to start to realize. This is a big part of what meditation can be about. We start to observe our own thoughts. Observing our behavior is a little bit easier, but observing our own thoughts is more of a challenge because, like, if this is our observer, our thoughts are like right up against it, but our behavior is a little farther away. So when something is closer to your psyche and closer to the you observing the world, it's going to be more of a challenge to actually see it and separate yourself from it and then start to actually let it go. So if you're stuck ruminating about things in the past, or if you're constantly like scared of the future or scared of what's to come, or if you're constantly worrying that you might get betrayed or somehow stabbed in the back again, if you're in your head all of the time and you're not living in your body, then that is a pattern. Those thought patterns are something that you can start to let go of. And I kind of just said it, right? The counter to that is learning how to live and be in your body more rather than in your head all of the time. And letting go of those thought patterns, letting go of the constant mental noise, the rumination, the intrusive thoughts, letting go of those that have become more automatic. It's a challenge, but you can do it. I've done it. That is something very powerful that you can learn to let go of. Layer number 6 in things that we can let go of is our beliefs. Again, this is still at the internal level. Beliefs about what is right versus what is wrong. Beliefs about us versus them. Your beliefs about money, right? Do you subscribe to politics? All of these things are at this belief level of things that drive the thought patterns that we have. And so as you start to look at your behavior, which can be driven by your thoughts, and then you start to analyze your thoughts and the thought patterns you have, and you start to notice, okay, I have XYZ pattern, I want to start to shift it. A lot of times it can come from a core belief that we have that is kind of driving and giving energy to that whole pattern in the first place. So as you start to drop deeper into the level of your beliefs, you start to realize where a lot of these thoughts can actually be coming from. And so learning to let go of beliefs that you have is a very intentional thing that you have to do. I don't think a lot of people get to this state or get to the level where they want to actively change their beliefs. But if you're living a life that you don't want to be living, if you're living in some way and you're unhappy with the situation that you're in, it could be because there's a core belief you have that is actually counter to what your authentic life would look like. And so internally it creates this cognitive dissonance, right? Because we believe that we should be doing something in some way, and this could be very subconscious, but in reality, in our authentic life, we would be going this way. We want to go this way. And when you realize that, and you can get down to the level of, my belief here is keeping me from living an inauthentic life, you can start the work of letting go of your beliefs. And that is very, very powerful. The last level here that I'm going to talk about in this video is the level of letting go of your conditioning or your programming or your personality. This is another internal thing. Your personality is so wired into you. Not that it can't be unwired, but it is so close. Remember, I was talking about at the thought level. It is even closer to your psyche and to the you observing the world than your thoughts. Your thoughts are farther out here. Your personality is way more ingrained. So this is an even deeper level than beliefs and all the other things to get to. And once you start to realize that your subconscious programming, your conditioning, and even your personality are things that are keeping you from living the authentic life that you deserve, that you know you could be living, that is such a key moment. And then deciding to actually shift that is so powerful. These things are so fused into who you've been. You might not be able to differentiate them without a ton of self-analysis. And I can say that because I have done a ton of self-analysis. Ask yourself if you are being yourself, or if you're just being a person that the environment or environments that you grew up in trained you to be. And this is where true freedom and control comes from. Being the real you, letting go and stripping away all of the things that are not you. This is where you get to really control your life and your reality. I mentioned it a couple of times, but the key to taking back this control is letting go of all of these other things that get in our way. And it comes down to learning how to let go of stress and tension in our mind and in our body. A lot of people miss the body piece, but it's really quite amazing how much of a role the body plays in the conditioning and the programming and the personality that we live with. We can learn to calm our nervous system so that our authenticity actually becomes clearer, and making those necessary decisions becomes way easier. This is what I teach my clients with somatics. If you're still getting to know me or not interested, no worries, I get it. Start going down that list of layers that I talked about. Start with your physical stuff. Then look at your relationships and your friendships, etc., and go down the line and see if you can get down to the level of your beliefs and your personality. Start building that life that's more authentic to you. That's the main thing. And I'll see you on the other side.